Hi guys, this is Nitin, and this video is going to talk about state management. As a beginner, when I started doing front-end applications, useState was my best friend, and it is very efficient. But soon I realized this is a hell when you have very complicated states. For example, this is a simple example case where I have namely three variables: name, phone, and address. And to manage these three variables, if you see, if I use a state hook, then I have to first use the variable name where I will be storing the state, and then another variable which is going to set the state for that variable. So all in all, right now these are six variables which I have to handle, and considering that if I need to pass it to some child components, that becomes very complex right there. And if you have nested components, for example, in the address variable here, for the address state, I have two variables, city and pin code. So this is kind of a level 1 nesting. And to update that is also not straightforward. I have to make sure that I gather the previous state, use that to override the new state, and then update the part which I want to update. But if you have nesting any deeper than level 1, then it will become pretty heavy and complex to manage that. So this is a simple example here where these three states are printed here, and then I have a button to update each state individually. Let me refresh the page quickly to start fresh. Okay, right now these are all set to null, and let's update the name. So when I click on this, you'll see I make the use of useState, and set name is called to update the state for the name variable. I added some random string at the end so that we can see the state updates in real time. Whenever I click on it, you will see that the state is updating. Similarly, I can update a random phone number, and here it is interesting. So although address is stored in a single variable, but I'm only going to update the city part. This is how I can do. Once I click on this button, see the pin code is still null, but I'm able to update the city. This is possible because I'm using the all the stored previous state and then only updating the city part, and rest all is just copied on to a new state. This is not very efficient, but this gets the work done. Similarly, I can update the pin here as well. And this is what a beginner code looks like. So you use the use state option to define state and then setter for that state, and use that setter variable to set the states. Now I'm going to show you a very simple trick which I evolved over the years. You cannot use it like for the state management of the whole application. That will be not very efficient. But if you are managing a single component, for example, let's say this is one component where I need to handle these information, and instead of creating these different use state hooks, I want to have something stored in a single variable that I can pass to the child, and also handle with the nested state management, as well as react onto when a particular state changes. So that all will be taken care of. So this is implemented under 50 lines of code. I will share you the snippet for this, but let's not look at that code for now. Just see how we can port this. Okay, so namely the very first problem is that we have to predefine all the states that we want to use in the application, right? But what if we define it on the go? So this is how it works. I'm going to call it state, constant state equals to, so the hook name which I have kept is called reactState. It is defined here, and it takes a default state as a parameter. So I'm going to pass a blank state, although I can still also pass something like name and set it as null. That will also work, but even though if I don't define anything, it's fine. So right there, out of these three lines of code, it's a single line of code, and out of six variables, it's a single variable, right? So let's update this one by one. So here we have name. Previously we had name variable to see the state for the name, but now we have a single one. So how do I access the name variable? Although I have not defined the default state name, that is name, but I can say state.get name, and if it is defined, it will return, otherwise it will be blank. Similarly for phone, I can say state.get phone, and for address, let's say I call it state.get address, right? So we have these three variables now defined here, and we need to quickly update our buttons to update these states. So here, instead of using set name function, we can use make use of this variable state. It will be very simple, state.set, and then this was name variable, so we will be updating name, and let's keep the value same as before. So this is the value I was updating, so this should work. Similarly, when I want to update phone, okay, I need to comment this out right there, and state dot set and this time I'm updating phone, so I will be updating phone. And let's pick the same values which you were setting previously. So this will be the value set to this variable. And now comes the interesting part. So I need to update city, but this is a nested one. Although I haven't defined anything here, but how do I make sure that I update the state in a nested manner? So I can do it with like this: state.set address.city, and let's put it like this, and this should work. Similarly for pin code, I can do state.set address.pin code, and let's set the value to right. Okay, so I've updated the values now, and because we don't have any predefined values, so these are all blank. I will just refresh it quickly to show you this is all blank. Now let's try to update the name. So when I click on this, you see automatically the name variable which was not defined, it's automatically created, and now it is updating, and the application is also reacting whenever we do the state change. Now let's set up a phone number. You can see the phone number is changing, and let's update the city. You can see automatically this nested state is created and the city variable is added inside it. When I click on this pin code, you see automatically the pin code is also added here. So we don't need to define anything beforehand, we can do it on the go. So this can be very useful when you are receiving some data from the API, and you want to keep it as a state so that you can react it when user updates some state, but the structure is received from the backend. In that case, you don't need to define the structure, it will be automatically created. Now here's some interesting part. Instead of updating the city, I will be updating something else as well. Let's say location and then lat. Okay, so I'm going to put address. So let's say lat and long. Okay, and this will work when I update the city. Okay, so here when I click on the city, you will see automatically a location variable is created, inside which there is another object inside which we have lat, although I haven't updated the long, so this should be long. Okay, update city. Now we have location, and then location have these two variables, lat and long. So this is all nested. See, this is a 3-level nesting, and we are still able to update the state without any hassle. But you know, because this lat long all belongs to the location variable, and we have to call this set state twice, so this becomes inefficient quickly. So to tackle that, actually there are two ways to set something in this state manager. So either we pass a string as keys, and the nesting is separated by this dot notation. Otherwise we can also pass full on objects. So state dot location is the nesting, and further we have two things, lat and long. So I can just pass the object directly. So lat will be 23 and long will be 24, right? Or let me change the values too so that it reflects. Okay, so I'm using this address dot location as the nested address key for the variable changes, and inside which I am setting two variables, lat and long, and instead of setting it twice, I'm just doing it in a single call. So when I click on update city, you will see this lat and long has changed from to 20 and 25. So this is how it works. You can define any value here, and for that this new thing will be updated. Okay, now let's see some more example. Instead of passing strings, you can also pass something like address is going to be unknown. Okay, I'll comment the previous code. So see, I am not even passing the string based keys now, I'm just passing a single object, and when I click on this button, you will see the address become unknown. So it is automatically picking this key and then set the value against it. Now here, instead of unknown, I can also pass a value. So I can say address, and I can pass, let's say, city, and then I can pass pin code, then I can pass location, then a further nested dictionary, and let. So it also works this way. You see, the whole object is updated now in a single go. So this is the power of it. Either you can update state one by one, you can also refer to a particular state by these dot notation, or you can override the entire state using the nested object notation. So these were all the features of the state manager, which I'm calling reactState for now. And this is how it makes your life easy. and it does not interfere with the existing values. So let's say we had these values set, but when I click on this update pin code, it is only setting the pin code. Let's say I change it to 5, and I see the 5 is reflected here. And now what if you want to react based on these, not in the UI, but make some programmatically calls or something? So we have use effect for that. So use effect, the way it works is you have some callback function, and then you have a dependency array. Here you define, let's say previously we were using name useState. So in that case, if I want to react whenever name changes, I would have to pass this name variable in the dependency array. But here, let's say I want to react whenever the lat or long changes. Okay, so what I can do is state.get, and I can say address dot location dot lat, right? And I can also do it like for long. So whenever lat long changes, I can console this out that lat or long has update changed, right? And let's set some other values. I will set, or maybe just select a random value for lat long. So we will be able to see how it works. So this is inside city. So whenever I update the city, this should also change the lat long. Okay, and this is a very large number, but anyhow, see the lat long is changing, and here in the console window you'll see that it is updating. So but here we have used two dependency arrays, but we can also do it in a single go, because essentially the lat long both resides inside the location state. So I can just say whenever this location changes, I want the console log to be printed out. You can see the number is changing, meaning that it is reflecting. So this is how much powerful this one reactState tool is, which I developed. And you can programmatically do all sort of nesting and state updates without worrying about to create the structure beforehand. Good thing is it is implemented under 50 lines of code, so you can just pull it anywhere. This is based on use reducer. This is also another famous alternative to useState, which allows you to update multiple states. But the benefit here is you don't need to define the structure, and you can strategically update any nested states, and it does not affect any other state set into that variable. So I think this was useful for you. If you find this useful, please do comment, interact with the video, and let me know how do you think this will work or not for you. And I think for beginners especially, this is a very good tool, because you don't have to dangle around with these things. You can just very easily pass this state variable into other child components, and peacefully make sure that the state changes are reflected everywhere.